Kia ora koutou whānau. How is everybody? Hope you're doing well. Chewie, you're right there over on the other side of the screen tonight. Is that okay?
Yes. Oh, yeah. How have we done that? Oh, because I was here before you. Okay. Which is very unusual.
Don't tell them that. Don't tell them that.
I am good, Pat. My house is getting absolutely hammered by this wind at the moment. It's very, very scary. Ilva does not like it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Weather.
I do not have a fire on tonight for the first time in maybe a month of being home. And you can really tell the difference. Heat pumps are always going here in Dunedin, but normally I put the fire on about 3 o'clock just as the sun's going behind the hill, and it keeps the place warm. And when you don't put it on, you can really notice the difference. Just saying. Just saying. Yeah, how's your day? What's going on? Anything exciting happening in the Chewy world?
Oh, not really. Very, very quiet day at work today, which coincided with a day of heavy roadworks outside the shop. So, yeah, I didn't do much. Didn't do much at all.
Yeah, people probably know this. I've said this before. I'm dyslexic, right? And one of my dyslexic tells comes with things like jargon. Like, I don't know if I've ever experienced this with me, Chewy. You'll tell me something and it'll be specifically around, let's say, a tech issue, and within 2 or 3 months I won't remember any of the terminology. I might remember how to do the thing, but I just can't remember anything. I get it with names. Like the example I always give, right, is when I realized what it was the accountant would send me an email and the accountant would say, do this, 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 and this. And I'd go, I don't know how to do those. And so I'd ignore it. And then you go through the process over the next 3 months of him going, it has to be in by Friday or we might have penalties. And so I call a friend of mine who works in accounts, and she comes around and she goes, right, print out the email. And she holds it in her hand and she reads it to me. And I go, yep, I know how to do that. So something between reading the word and hearing the word doesn't gel. The other thing that drives me mad is admin. And it drives me mad. So today, I haven't done very much work in the studio because I've been doing this, Chewy. This is what I've been doing a lot of today. Packaging and writing and booking
Those
couriers.
are some well-stuffed bags.
Yeah.
Look at them.
All the hoodies
Bulging.
and T-shirts. And I do apologise because I know we said we were going to aim to get them out by the end of the month. But I hadn't organised the couriering. I thought it would be turn up to a store and say, here's all the packages, here's all the addresses, can you send them, how much? And they all went, yeah, no, I don't know how much that will be. I'm like, well, what? And so they had to go to head office, and the head office had to come back to me. And so, but it means for this month and onwards, we're now all sorted. So my head is in small white packages there for the day. And so it means I didn't get into the studio today at all, really, and didn't really get a chance to edit any of that cool stuff from last night, which we said we'd do. And that'll all come out over the next couple of days. The Scotty Reeve conversation, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, but good. But fun to get it out there. Fun to get it on. So if you've bought some of our content from our merch from last month, I think about 3/4 of it is getting picked up first thing tomorrow morning. Everything bar, I think I've got about 4 hoodies to go, but everything else is already sitting outside the door waiting to be picked up by the courier. Well, outside the door in the secure area where the courier knows where to come to, and it'll all be on trucks and stuff tomorrow, coming out. And Then everybody needs to take photos and hashtag BHN and tag us on whatever social media platform you're on and send them to us, and come back here and put URLs, put the URL of your Instagram into the chat when you're wearing it, so we can all have a look at you wearing your BHN merch. Because, Chewy, we'll get to this a bit later tonight, I think, I still believe, truthfully and honestly, if the left votes, the left wins, But yeah, some polling out today. Well, no, I'm not going to play this kind of blinkers on game of saying it's fine. Polling out today says one thing. Seats in the House, based on that polling, which we know we don't like to read in too much, says something very, very different. So we'll have a look at that a little bit later on tonight, and we'll see how it all pans out. But look, it can't be argued. Not a great day for Labor. Not a great day.
I'm not surprised though.
No.
Like, it's not blindsided. They've had a shocking, 2 months. Like, if they could stop punching themselves in the face for a bit, that would be great.
You keep saying in the face. I think the actual terminology is punching themselves in the dick. I think that's what you're supposed to say. But you keep saying face.
I think
when you say that.
it's stepping on your own dick, but that implies having a dick that's big enough to step on. And I'm not saying I'm not feeling that big dick energy.
Or very short legs like your dog. It had very, very, very short legs. It wouldn't quite be the same issue. Like teeny legs. Hey, story for you. Not really anything to do with stuff going on tonight, but I'm sure a lot of people have seen this. True, I'm sure you've probably seen it floating around. The new sign that's been up and above the Twitter building, which has had some trouble actually in the last 24 hours. So Elon decided he'd put his new X up on top of the building, and it basically does a Morse code message like that lights up all the apartment buildings across the way that everybody hates. And see how bright it is. And when I saw this yesterday, I was like, you'd see that from a plane. Like, look how bright it is.
Isn't it just classic Elon though?
It's classic Elon in lots of ways. What actually happened was, this is the guys taking the Twitter sign down before putting it up, right? The giant flashing X sign atop Twitter HQ dismantled. They've taken it apart amid rebranding efforts. So he's rebranded it to be X, but the city has said you can't do that. A very large flashing X sign on the roof of Twitter's headquarters in San Francisco was dismantled on Monday after officials said the latest move by Elon Musk to rebrand the social media company violated city codes, Chewy. Violated city codes, which you'd understand by looking as to how bright it was. Yeah, of course.
Like, was he wanting to see it from one of his SpaceX rockets or something?
Maybe.
I don't know. But I mean, the whole thing, right from the get-go of chucking out all of Twitter's well-established branding and logos, right? Seemingly on a whim, crowdsourcing someone to do the logo, not checking with the city for like a real obvious thing of, do we need a permit for this cherry picker on the footpath, to putting that monstrosity on the roof with one of the most ugly support frameworks I've ever seen, and then just completely flash banging anybody in the neighborhood. Well, why does it need to flash?
Yeah.
Why does it need to flash that bright?
I didn't follow it up, but I did see some rumors on the internet that it was actually Morse code, and it was spelling something out. And I saw a whole bunch of mega mics kind of going, "Oh, it's hilarious when you see what it's Morse code it says." I don't know if that's true or not. You could look that up if you wanted to, but
I'm gonna have a wee look.
All right. The story says last week, San Francisco police stopped workers from removing the Twitter bird and vertical logo from the side of the building, saying they had not taped off the sidewalk to keep pedestrians safe during the work. On Friday, Musk installed the giant X on top of Twitter's building that emitted a strobing white light, which nearby residents said beamed into their apartments. The city opened a complaint and launched an investigation into the sign on the day it went up, with the inspector calling the giant X unsafe because it was built without a safety permit. Any replacement letters or symbols, as well as erecting a sign on top of a building, would require a permit to ensure consistency with the historic nature of the building and to ensure any additions to the structure are safely attached. A spokesperson for the Department of Building Inspection told the Associated Press. Senior building inspector, name, spoke with Twitter. Funny they're still calling it Twitter, eh? And building maintenance on Friday, explaining to them the department's investigation process, and requested access to the roof, according to a government complaint tracker. But a Twitter representative refused to let Hernandez access to the sign, saying it was that the X was a temporary lighted sign for an event. So much like what I find this most interesting, much like Twitter has turned into since Elon Musk took over, they didn't keep people on the sidewalk safe. And it's kind of exactly a real world application as to what they've done with Twitter as well, perhaps, Chewy. So that's what they did.
Oh,
Have you found any?
it's just Elon down to a T. It's like
Yeah, I'll do what I want.
he'll do what he wants. He's not across the details and that sort of thing. I'm sure he just thought it was a great big piss take and told minions to go and get it done, and he didn't want to know anything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, imagine, people. You live in that apartment building, right? How thick do your curtains have to be to stop that?
Yeah.
You get up in the morning and you oh, fuck, yeah, epilepsy.
Yeah.
Jesus.
No, it's terrible. I mean, and just complete, I don't know. I mean, the corporate world is never necessarily going to be one of thinking about those around them, but it also probably doesn't want to be one that just makes complete enemies of their neighbours as well. Somewhere in the middle is probably the best we can expect. There you go. Any news on the Morse code?
No, I can't see anything legitimately saying it's flashing a code.
All right. Hey, a few things to talk about tonight. Quite a lot of political stuff, including that poll, which I think is where we will finish tonight. We are going to have a look at national and the transport situation and what they've done today. More information sort of coming out today on the holes in the national plan. And also the polling as well. But before we do any of that stuff, let's say a big thanks to our patrons. Remember, if you want to be a part of what we do, if you want to help us make what we do, you can either buy our merch, which there's nothing for sale at the moment. We do drops that last for 2 weeks and then we deliver it. So there'll be another drop coming up probably next week and last for the 2 middle weeks, and then it'll go away. We are going to do some BHN gear, which people have been requesting. The BHN gear probably will not go away, but we will be making them unique to early adopters. Is that fair, Chewy? Unique to early adopters? So you know that in 5 years' time, when we're bigger than Hosking, when you got it, that you were on board from the early days. Back in the early days. Patreon.com/Big Hairy News if you want to be a part of what we do when it comes to our patrons. Now, this is a really interesting story. Now, what's going to happen tomorrow in the news, Chewy, is National are going to say, of the story I'm about to play, National's going to say, see what Labor's done to the health system. And Labor's going to say, can you imagine National taking over this issue and making it better? So you heard it here first. That's going to be the two narratives that are run tomorrow. Based on this thing called ramping. I'd never heard of the term before tonight, but ramping is when there is not enough room or staff in an emergency department to receive the people coming from ambulances. So they stay on the ramp in the ambulance and they basically triage them there. So in other words, the ambulance becomes a portable room whilst they're waiting for space within the emergency department. Let's have a look at the story first, and then we'll come back and have a chat about the ifs, whys and wherefores.
New Zealand has just had one of its worst ever days of ramping, where ambulances are forced to sit idle and treat patients outside hospitals on ramps because emergency departments are overloaded.
Waikato did have its worst day ever yesterday, with almost every ambulance in the region parked up for several hours, waiting to get into the ED. 5 of them with seriously ill patients on board. Karen Rutherford has the exclusive details.
No one wants to end up in ED, but when you do, you want to get in the door. That was happening today at Waikato Hospital, but yesterday it was a case of ramping on steroids. Almost every ambulance in the region was stuck out here.
So that's the first thing, just to be clear. It's one day of it. Now, why that has happened, I don't know. Was it a particularly bad day? Is it an anomaly? Is it a pattern of what's going on? There's a couple of very important, I think you'll know, Chewy, and people watching will know as well, that quite often there's 1 or 2 points made in a story which are incredibly salient to the overall issue. I'll highlight one of those points as it comes up. But yeah, pretty terrifying if you're in an ambulance and you need help and you go to the hospital and they say, well, we'll sit out here for a while. Would you like a Coke? We'll be waiting in the waiting room. But that's where we're at.
5 with status 2 seriously ill patients.
At peak, we had 12 of our ambulances at the emergency department. As a result of that, my team declared a major incident.
Ramping is not new, but it's becoming frustratingly familiar. Hatuhone St John says yesterday ambulances around the country were parked up, waiting to get into EDs for a total of over 200 hours, almost 100 hours more than a normal winter's day.
It's probably the worst day we've ever seen.
So it's double. So if they're normally ramping or waiting for 100 hours a day, it's 200 hours. Now remember as well, and this is not to defend them, I think this is a really bad story overall, but just to be clear, how many ambulances, how many hospitals, how many emergency departments, divide all of that by 100 will give you a bit of an average. Is it 20 minutes an ambulance? 200 hours sounds like a massive amount, but how much does that mean on average per ambulance? Because that would be the thing we actually need to know. Ironically, media doesn't tell us that, Joey, so we don't know.
Yeah,
Could it be?
It's also just St John, so that rules out Wellington.
Right.
Because they use the Wellington Free Ambulance. But yeah, it is really concerning because I guarantee you, however many ambulances you think your city has, it's a lot less than that.
Yeah. So again, this is not me saying everything's fine. This is me saying that's actually the information we need to know. Like if every patient had to wait an additional 3 minutes, most of us would go, yeah, okay, not the worst. If every patient had to wait on average, 33 minutes, you'd be like, not good enough. So that's actually the most salient point, which we never find out about.
So we spent 60 hours sitting at Waikato Hospital yesterday. By comparison, yesterday we spent 90 hours additional to what we would normally at all 4 Auckland EDs, so it was a particularly challenging time.
One senior ED doctor here who I spoke to told me yesterday was probably, and I quote, the most overwhelmed shift he has ever worked, and it seems to be getting worse. He blames poor access to primary health care, a lack of beds, a lack of staff and a lack of planning, particularly given Mondays are the busiest day of the week.
So that sounds like the management within the hospital haven't planned their staffing well enough for it. But that's what the doctor's saying. But Te Whatu Ora actually explains as well that they're basically fully staffed. So it's not like they're short on staff. I think it sums up now.
Waikato says a higher number of patients arrived by ambulance yesterday, 85 in total. It moved additional staff to support ED and increased bed capacity in the wards to accommodate those being admitted. It insists it is currently fully recruited for ED medical staff and nearly fully recruited for nurses.
So, I mean, is there some wordplay there? Fully recruited? Does that mean fully employed? Does that mean they've got people on the way? But I guess Te Whatu Ora is not. They're saying that they have enough staff. So then, why the delays, Chewy? There's the things that I'd like to be able to ask these questions, but we just have to respond.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know the severity of the things that they would do. It's such a hard story to nail down where the problem is.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the end of it, shall we?
But acknowledges while patients remain safe in the care of ambulance staff, the handover delay affects their ability to be back out, responding to our communities.
It can have less than ideal health outcomes on the patients that we are supposed to be there for.
St John says while it doesn't believe anyone in the community who had to wait longer than usual yesterday for an ambulance suffered adversely, it does want answers.
I've been having direct conversations today with some very senior staff at Te Whatu Ora who are equally as motivated as I am to make sure this does not occur for our patients and our people.
Frustration that's ramping up the more often ambulances and their patients wait outside for the attention they need.
All right, just a little bit of number crunching then, Chewy. St John's Ambulance have 1,000 ambulances, according to Hatuhone St John, Ambulance Service St John. There's 1,000 ambulances operating out of 206 stations. Now, if there's 1,000 ambulances, that 200 hours is the equivalent of 12,000 minutes. So obviously divide that by 1,000 on average. I mean, it doesn't mean all 1,000 are on the road, obviously, but because we don't have the information, that could be a quarter of an hour delay per ambulance that if they were all out on the road. So,
well,
I mean, it's not amazing if there's emergencies, but it's also, when you say 200 hours, that's a big number.
Yeah, usually ambulance, like I'd say that number is reasonably solid. They'll have a few down for maintenance and cleaning and that sort of thing at all times, but they usually have, I don't know, there's supposed to be more crews than ambulances. That's not always the case, but
Right.
an ambulance might be working for a lot longer than the crew in it. So yeah, but when you say that, yeah, the hour breakdown, yeah, is it an aberration or is it a systemic thing? It sounds to me like an aberration.
The other thing, remember what I just said about 12 minutes. That's 12 minutes per ambulance per day. So that's per ambulance. That's not per visit. So that's it. That's only, look, and I don't have the numbers, but because they didn't give them to us, I'm doing some thinking as to what would that be. So if there's 1,000 ambulances to waste, quote unquote, or have to ramp for 200 hours in a day, that's 12 minutes per ambulance. So does that mean if they did 12 trips a day, that's an average of a minute each time, or not? And obviously when I say average, you know what it's like at an A&E, you go in at a certain time and maybe someone had to wait 20 minutes and then, 20 people in the evening didn't have to wait any time at all. But is it an issue? Obviously, access to the ED should be immediate and all the time. Is it a 200-hour issue as that's being sold? I don't know. I guess we need more information.
I mean, there's a bunch of problems around EDs just in general, and I wonder if that's what they mean when they say part of the difficulty is access to primary healthcare.
Yeah.
Now, when they say primary healthcare, I'm assuming that means like your local GP.
Well, your primary care would be that. Yeah.
Yeah, seeking medical help before you need to go to the ED. Anecdotally, I'm sort of soft quoting my sister here who works in an ED. There are a bunch of people where their first interaction with medical is in an emergency department because they've put it off. They don't want to spend the money or can't spend the money going to a GP. Talking to my GP last week, she said that they're really struggling to recruit GPs.
Right.
So is it a case of, I had to wait 2 weeks for an appointment, as an example. So if you've got something that's a niggling issue that gets bad before you get an appointment, then you're off to the ED and you're clogging up the ED.
So a couple of things. Most importantly, how is the rash after your visit? Is it all clear?
Oh, much better. Got a really good cream. Yeah,
really good.
It takes all the hair off as well. I'm smooth like a dolphin.
But you like it when you make a joke and someone turns it on you and it feels really uncomfortable. So here's the thing. Is this a cost of living issue? People not having the money, as people are saying in the chat, as you've just intimated there, to go to their doctors, not wanting to go to their doctors, so more of them are ending up in ED. Now, the second part of this conversation is the let's put cash registers in the emergency department of the 1990s National Party who want to bring back roads. Are they going to be the hands to solve this issue and make primary access to your health physician, your doctor, easier or more difficult? Are they going to help the people who already can't afford to go to the doctor, so they're ending up in the emergency department? Are they going to make it more easier or more difficult? Because this is, in 70-ish days, this is the decision that we're going to have to make. Keeping a Labour government in, if this is going to be put at their feet now, keeping them in, will that make it worse? Or will they be the ones to solve it? Bringing National in, will that make it better? Or based on their history, will they make it even worse still? I don't have the answers, but these are the questions we need to be asking each other.
Yeah, I like we've seen a little peek behind the curtain of how they treat issues with subsidising things to do with your GP with the subscription, your prescription charges. So I wouldn't be hopeful that they'd make it easier and cheaper to go and see a doctor.
Yeah.
We're seeing, they want to do that new medical school, but is that going to help with the GPs? Is the case of, as my doctor said, the case of burnout and retirement. How is any government? I'm not putting this on National. It's up to the other parties as well. I think we've circled around this issue before with the medical field, with the new doctors and the new nurses coming through. It's not so much recruiting them; it's keeping them. So is that an issue?
And keeping a doctor, forget that they're a doctor, keeping a worker, doctor as a worker, typically comes down to pay and conditions.
Yeah.
So is that a part of this conversation? And I know many of us will go, like, doctors are earning stacks of money, but all of us get to a point where a certain amount of money doesn't match the conditions. Yeah.
It's the conditions, and look, my sister makes a little bit more money than me as a how long's she been a nurse? About 4 years. And she is constantly overworked, and very rarely gets any sort of time off. She's doing brutal hours. We know junior doctors do massive hours. If you're a GP, you're essentially, it's kind of like running your own business in a lot of ways, right? You got to chase funding and all of that sort of stuff as well. I think we have a real problem with governments thinking in almost the wrong terms, like either too short or too long,
right?
And not looking at retaining the people, whatever the job is. To be honest, whether it be nurses, doctors, teachers. You get them in the door, you train them, and you don't check in with them. You don't sort of go, well, why are you striking all of a sudden? Very rude of you to be striking in an election year, I'll tell you that much. And as people in the chat points out, they make more money overseas.
There's a logistics issue here, though, as well, isn't there? Because I agree with you about the either short or long term is what governments do. I mean, it's that idea of ambulance at the bottom of the cliff, fence at the top of the cliff. Most governments, most political entities, local body as well, they'll do one or the other. They'll try and put a fence at the top of the cliff and remove the ambulance at the bottom whilst that fence is coming into effect. Because, I mean, you think about the analogy, if it takes me a year to build that fence at the top, there's still people going off, landing at the bottom. I still need the ambulance down there as well. So you need them both. And the short term versus long term is, we talked about it last night. What were we talking about last night? And it was, I can't even remember what we talked about last night. My brain is still packaging T-shirts. And we talked about needing both the short and long term planning for what needs to happen. And it was the roads. That's what we're talking about. Because we're talking about that again. The roads, like, I don't have a problem with the idea of improving our roads, but not at the not giving up on public transport. It's both. It's not a either or. It's a both.
And then we'll circle back to the thing that we can't have enough money to do all of these things. But what I was going to say with this, though, is that we're talking about better conditions for the doctors, especially ones working in hospitals and stuff who are working massive hours. Like a GP is a 9-to-5 job pretty much, yeah? But those guys who are working in a hospital, for them to stop those hours, you might have to double the number of doctors. And how the fuck do you do that? Like, how do you give better conditions when there might not be enough people to give someone a 40-hour work week? So you might need another 30% more staff, and we don't have that. And that's a long-term goal. And, it snowballs. Yeah, and look, maybe that's National's angle was saying we need another medical school in what was it, Waikato? Waikato University.
Yeah, I think so. That's correct.
Yeah, again, is that going to help?
Or is it also going to no disrespect to the brain boxes out there, because I'm not one of you, but is it also just going to put out a lower quality of medical student at the end? If you double the placements, does that mean you're dropping your quality down? Does it not matter? Does still, rather than having the top 200, you've now got the top 400? Does that not matter because the top 400 are still scholarship A+++ students anyway? I don't know, but they're all fair questions to ask. I mean, I think that story to me looks like, and as someone said in the chat, I haven't started, but someone said in the chat, it could be 20 ambulances being stuck for an hour sort of thing. And that's 100% true. It could be. That's why I made it clear of those 1,000. It's an average. The average doesn't sound bad. The 200 hours sounds bad, but no one's giving us the actual numbers, so we can't do anything other than speculate. And that's what I'd like. I'd like the numbers. I think numbers are important to drill down into. If every ambulance is waiting on average an extra 3 minutes, that doesn't seem as bad as, ambulances waiting for half an hour or an hour, left, right and centre. Don't know.
Yeah.
Anything in the chat for that? Do we want to chuck anything out there before we move away from
Mr. Rob Burney says, who
ambulances?
would trust a doctor from Hamilton? Look, if I was seeing a doctor for an STD, yes, absolutely, because a doctor from Hamilton would have more knowledge of them.
Probably did it.
Yeah,
Probably caused it.
Probably did it. What else have we got here? This is a good point. Is it a long COVID consequence? Sicker population on average. Yep, we're talking less and less about COVID, but it's still around. There are still people that are dealing with chronic illness as a result of it. Is that an issue? With everything that we've been talking about, the medical staff that have gone through a global pandemic and have basically not had a chance to take a breather after it. I think it would be foolish to say that wouldn't have an effect.
I think also the reality is anytime we see something like this, it's obviously it's not never going to be one thing. It's going to be a bunch of things. No. Like I had a massive power bill last month. It was the month we weren't even in the house for a week because we were up at my dad's funeral, but it was a massive, and so I'm looking at my borders going, did you guys have dryer parties every single night for fun or something like that? But the reality is it's probably a bunch of stuff. We didn't run fires, which means the wetback wasn't going, which means all the hot water was only going off the electricity. They turned the heat pump up off stairs, so when they turned it on, it ramped it up really hard. It didn't just, kind of stay at a constant all the time. Much like this, I think long COVID or those COVID situations might definitely have a hand to play in it, but it's not going to be the only answer. There might be that plus, an anomaly of a day plus, several things in once. Plus the hospital staff, management not rostering on enough staff. They did say Mondays are their busiest days and they didn't have enough staff there. Why not? Especially if Te Whatu Ora is saying that we have enough staff. Don't know. So it could be a multitude of things.
DIY Guru says emergency departments are often the first medical attention people seek, making them the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I'm on an okay wage. As I said, I had a doctor's appointment last week, and that's like $45 that I had to find, and that's fine. I'm a dude with a decent job and no kids and that sort of thing. It's a very different situation for a lot of people out there. It was $45 out of your weekly shopping and you got kids to feed and you got to keep the power on and stuff like that. That's so maybe you just put it off and then your appendix explodes and you've got to get an ambulance ride.
Tresky, MG Tresky says something interesting. Shane Retty was spending all those times in ambulances recently. I wonder if he's the reason. I don't think it's exactly what MG's saying, but that's what I'm saying. Bounced off that comment. Maybe he was holding them up for all those times he was spending in ambulances. He was literally not ambulance chasing, but he was ambulance inserting.
Yeah,
he was inserting.
Chasing hard, bumming a ride easy.
All right.
And one last comment here, because I definitely know this is true. Australia poaching our nurses. We can't compete with the wages that they're offering. Absolutely. 100%. I got, friends that are nurses as well. And look, the algorithm on social media is constantly serving up ads to go over to the Gold Coast or go to Victoria or Northern Territory and essentially double their wages to work in Australia. So...
And the way to solve that, I don't know if you remember, Chewy, I'm sure we played it on here. I'm not sure which show they were on. It was probably Breakfast, one of the breakfast shows, the AM shows, when Christopher Luxon was challenged. He was criticising Labor for, losing nurses and he was and how they could earn more overseas, but then he wouldn't commit to paying nurses more in New Zealand. It's like, isn't that the answer? I mean, I used to talk about this when I worked in radio. It was like, I remember when Russell Coates left and went to work for the Swiss syndicate in sailing, and everyone was like, traitor. And I was like, dude, if the guys across the road offered me double the money, I'd be gone in a heartbeat. What are you talking about? Like, it's not a difficult decision to make, really. I mean, more often than not, this might sound a little bit defeatist, but more often than not, your workplace will have no loyalty to you when rubber hits the road. So why would you have loyalty to your workplace? And I'm saying more often than not, it's not an absolute, right? But if your workplace has to make a decision of bottom line or you, more often than not, they'll pick bottom line. So, I can understand. I mean, like, I don't want to use sporting analogies all the time. It's like you can't be an All Black Chewy and play in Australia. You have to play in New Zealand. So what they've done is they've found something that is worth more than the money to keep them here, right? So what do nurses need if they're not going to give them the money? What do they need in this country that's worth more than the money to keep them here? Now, I'm not suggesting we should do that. I'd like to pay them more money. Hey, I don't know, capital gains tax, wealth tax, a tax over $180,000.
That's what I'm saying. When the argument is always we can't afford this, we now have the evidence to say, well, actually, we can make a big dent in this. Yeah. Because there's a portion of our population that are shirking their responsibilities on tax and just hoarding wealth like it's a game. I want the doctors and nurses to have better wages. I want the teachers to have better paying conditions. I want to have better roads and public transport. And it all circles back to the same thing, that we can afford these things.
Yeah.
We've got two of our major parties that don't want to because them and their mates are the ones with the money. And another major political party that is scared because every time they do something like that, people say, see, I told you they were going to raise taxes. And when they don't, they get criticised because, they're not doing it now, but they will do it.
You know that big party on the left that wears red? Those guys? What are they called again? What's the name of them?
Labour.
I wonder where that name originated from. Like, I've got no idea. I mean, like, you think that name might have something tied into who they were at one stage? Labour?
Just
maybe it's about
bullshit.
Maybe it's about pregnant women giving birth. Maybe that's what it's about. Going into labour, or maybe it's something else. Because, like, what I would like, this is why I'll never be a politician, because I don't want to be. But if I was ever asked, it'd be like, I would only ever want to be involved in it if I could do something like this. Go to the public and say, we're going to pay nurses more, we're going to pay doctors more, we're going to pay teachers more, we're going to give our aged care people more, we're going to pay all these people more, and for that you're going to pay a bit more tax. If you don't want these people to earn more, if you don't want our servants to earn more and be kept here in the country, then don't vote for us. If you want our teachers to be kept, our nurses to stay in this country, because we're going to pay them more, then this is how we're going to do it. As a collective, we're going to put a couple of extra cents into the storehouse, and we're going to have a better health system. Like, not just stop fucking around. Like, why is Labour fucking around? Why don't they just come out and say, pick us, we'll pay them more, we'll do this, and you'll pay a little bit more? Rather than this whole no capital gains tax, no CGT, and still, we're going to get to shortly, they just got smashed in the polls somewhat. And still, even with all that, and now they can't go back.
Yeah. Gareth here nails it. It baffles me that a majority Labour government didn't raise nurses and teachers' pay on day one.
Yeah.
Like that, a massive, massive mandate, riding high on our COVID response. That would have been such an easy sell, right?
Yep, 20% pay increase.
All our frontline medical staff getting everything that they're after in their pay negotiations, because we've been dragging our chain, and we all had a good fucking look at ourselves and went, they're the ones that got us through the COVID. Give them their money.
Yeah.
That would have been, there would have been bugger all people in this country that would have criticised that, with the express exception of Damien Grant.
And all the people at the Wellington protest. They'd be the only ones that would have complained about it.
Yep. Now, speaking of Damien Grant, because that was a clever segue of mine to just casually point that out. He's in the opinions at the moment, sort of saying that the reason that people are going overseas is because of lower taxes. I would almost guarantee that is not what people Australia, apparently. But people are going overseas for lower taxes. That is incorrect. People go overseas for higher wages.
Yeah.
The taxes, I would be surprised if the tax is the consideration that makes people move countries. It is just, I'm paid 60 grand here, 100 grand over the ditch. I'm gone. I'll sort out everything else out later. That's the only thing that people consider.
And it's also not, they're not paying less anyway. I'm just bringing up the tax brackets right now. I mean, if they are paying less, it's marginally less. But this is what happens. This is the economies of scale. If you've got more coming in, you can afford to. There we go. So, because I have the. So okay, hang on. Okay, so Damien Grant is advocating for lower taxes.
Yes, that's convicted fraudster Damien Grant.
But hang on,
other Damien Grant out there.
But libertarian Damien Grant is he wants, for example, because remember Australia has the no tax on the 18,000, the 0 to 18,000. Is he suggesting that we do the same? Because it doesn't sound very acty to me.
Look, we're expecting Damien Grant to hold a logical and coherent point that he can defend. No.
And also remember, people over 180,000 are paying 45 cents in the dollar. That's what he's advocating for?
Sure, why not? Let's do it.
Or is he just looking for a narrative to try and find a reason?
Their top tax rate is higher. They have a capital. Well, many states have a stamp duty or a capital gains tax. We look at Australia and go, look, Australia is so much better than us, and then we don't take their good ideas. It's stupid. But
also, we did this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. We showed the business confidence, and New Zealand had better business confidence at the current time than Australia did. So it's not what Australians think. We think it because the grass is always greener, but it's not necessarily what Australians think, just quietly. Anyway.
Australia's a dreadful, dreadful place.
And full of Australians. Let's have a look at, this is a continuation from last night, the roads of national importance. National Party accused of a $10 billion hole in its transport plan. But who's going to fill that $10 billion hole, Chewy? And, spoiler alert, there are some concerns around getting China involved in our roading.
Auckland's got sinkholes, the rest of the country has potholes, and in Wellington, National is being accused of having a fiscal hole in its transport plan.
Just how big it is still up for debate, but leader Christopher Luxon is open to it being filled with big it is.
You ready? You can do that line. I'll stop it for you. Ready? Here we go.
National is being accused of having a fiscal hole in its transport plan.
Sorry, we'll do that again. Here we go. This is really bad broadcasting. You can do it. I'll go, but National can be accused of, and then I'll pause and you can do your line. Here we go.
Holes. The rest of the country has potholes, and in Wellington, National is being accused of having a
asshole.
Fiscal hole in its transport plan.
Just how big it is still up for debate, but leader Christopher Luxon is open to it being filled with billions from China. Here's political reporter Lloyd Burr.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Like that's worked so well all around the world.
Luxon opening up his grand transport plan. Now under pressure to open up on how he'll pay for it.
The National Party now appear to have a $10 billion hole in their transport plans.
The Prime Minister's referring to $9.52 billion National is earmarked as coming from private funding.
Okay, so we're clear. So they do have $9.25 billion in their plan. But like we said last night, when he says he's open to all, that means they don't know where they're getting it from. And they're talking about private funding. Where's that going to come from? Nobody knows.
Do you have a $10 billion hole?
Don't have a.
It's not so much of a hole, but more of a fiscal gap. And National's open-minded about filling it.
Value capture, targeted rates, public-private partnerships, toll roads.
A public-private partnership was used to build Transmission Gully in Wellington.
Nightmare.
Initially privately funded, it'll be paid off over 25 years by taxpayers. The Finance Minister says the arrangement was a disaster.
It took so long and it cost so much more than it should have. That was shoddily put together by the previous national government. And if that's what Christopher Luxon's talking about, then New Zealanders are right to be worried.
But Luxon says funders are already lining up.
There is $11 trillion in sovereign wealth money around the world. There's over $50 trillion actually in pension funds around the world. They are awash with cash and they want to invest in long-term infrastructure projects.
So the obvious question, Chewy, like if I had a fantastic investment opportunity, right, for me, I had a fantastic investment opportunity, why would I give that to someone else? Like if this is such a good business opportunity, why wouldn't New Zealand own this quote unquote business opportunity ourselves? Why would we give it away to someone else to make money off us if it's such a good investment opportunity? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this. Like, if you're wanting to fund a big project, you borrow because the benefits are going to outstrip it, and it's over an insanely long period of time. Why would you increase, like, public-private partnerships? The private part of it is there to make a profit. They're going to be clipping the ticket all the way through, and they're going to want to do it as quick as possible. So, they're not going to want to do it well.
Just flip it, yeah? If I could afford to pay for my house myself with a mortgage, then I do that. If I can't and I have to rent it for a while first and give money to the landlord and then buy it off them, it costs me more money. I mean, as you say, the P part, the private part, they're going to want a return on their investment, which means by definition it will cost more. It can't cost less. So this plan will cost the country more, cost individuals more doing it this way. Why would a government do that? If it can afford it. I mean, I will put that out there just to be generous, but why would, if it's a fantastic opportunity for investment, and if it would cost less for a government to do it, why would we give it off to our mates? Maybe our mates to make money off it on the side. I don't get. Well, do I get it? Maybe I do get it. Maybe when I say off to our mates is part of the answer.
Including here in New Zealand.
So would a Luxon government take money from China to build our roads?
We will have a national infrastructure agency that will weigh up each of the cases and look at the best funding and financing models to do that.
China's been funding hundreds of infrastructure projects across the world as part of its Belt and Road Initiative. Luxon leaving the door open for that to expand here, prompting conniptions from Hipkins.
Do you think...
Yeah, watch this one. She asks him about China, what he thinks about China getting involved. He almost goes like a cartoon does. It's amazing, actually.
China should be building roads in New Zealand?
That's quite the change in questioning. To be honest, it's not something that I've looked at.
You might have to talk to other countries that have a lot of Chinese construction going on.
I've got to say as well, terrible answer, Christopher Hipkins. Terrible answer.
Yeah.
Because he should have just said no. It was almost like he was going, how am I supposed to answer this question? China investing it? No, that wouldn't be good. And he came out with the same thing he came out with when he was asked about that "what is a woman" question. It's not something I've thought about. It's like you are allowed to actually answer it and say no, but he fumbles it. I mean, like, it's good because it's such a ridiculous question, such a ridiculous concept. He had never thought about it, but once he did thought about it, he didn't go very quickly on his feet to come to a no.
Not something that I've looked at.
You might have to talk to other countries that have a lot of Chinese construction going on in them.
He's referring to countries like those in the Pacific, now in serious debt to China, and assets with questionable quality.
That actually ends up as being more expensive than if you just used the Crown balance sheet to fund it in the first place.
Of course.
So Nationals leaving the door open to China on roading. The government also leaving the door open to more changes to Auckland Light Rail, which might no longer be underground but along Dominion Road. It's a decision they're still spending millions of dollars trying to decide. Lloyd Bird, News Hub.
Halfway down Dominion Road.
Yeah, I think Andrew Little's answer is the best one there. Like, you can just read an article. We've already seen around the world what China's been doing with Belt and Road. They have bankrupted countries. They swoop in, they promise the world, yeah, sweet, easy credit, no worries. All the way through Africa, and what they want basing rights, harbour access, all of that sort of thing. And this is why they've been so focused on Africa and the Pacific Islands. I don't see why we would ever consider that, and I have no confidence that National wouldn't take that money.
It feels like going with someone like China, or forget it, but any international input is like putting it on the credit card, because the interest rate's a lot higher because they need to make profit. Whereas, if you borrow money yourself directly for your own income, you always get a better rate, so to speak. There's also a little bit of a scuttlebutt going around at the moment because the CTU has done some information today and basically just called out the National show us the information. And Nicola Willis has got involved in a little bit of titting and tatting.
I love that, yes.
So Nicola Willis has come out saying, we saw the Finance Minister and CTU head Craig Rennie catching up at the Parliament Cafe recently, like old chums and a former workmates they are. So had wondered when when their next partisan hit job would come, because the CTU's released some information today that's embarrassed the the political party. But there's some crazy people who have been responding to it, like this one here that says the People's Wookiee, saying you
That's
could
a very good
respond.
comment. I'm just saying.
You could respond with a clear and fully costed, accurate financial plan based on something more concrete than Luxon reckons. That'd show him. National is, after all, the party of numbers, right? Seems the numbers are always wrong, but still. It's a good comment there, whoever made that, but there is one that's slightly better, and that is from Craig Rennie himself, who responded to Nicola Willis.
Yeah.
And this is, he says this. So he's the head of CTU, yeah? It's sad that you appear to have chosen to attack me personally when the problem is one of maths, not of politics. National can clear this up today. Put a costed, credible fiscal plan so workers can see what cuts are necessary to deliver your program. Kind of said the same thing as you, Chewy, but you know he was one that was attacked, so I thought I'd give him head billing.
Right of reply.
Right
yeah.
of reply.
I mean, I was discussing a robust discussion on Twitter about this, and
you mean rage screaming? Is that what you mean? You were rage screaming?
Yeah, doom spiraling, hammering my keyboard, the whole works. It's funny whenever you criticize National, it's Labor's done this, and I was just like, yeah, they have. The criticism is the same, like. They are giving bullshit numbers, and we should all be mad about this. Like the main opposition party, the party that could be the core part of the government, is not giving you the respect of telling you where the money is coming from, where the money is going, how it's all going to matter. That they are literally telling you that they're going to make things better. They're going to cut costs. They're not going to borrow anything, and then they're going to give you a tax cut. And that sounds like fucking magic. Like, if Luxon just rolled out with a wizard's hat and robe, he might as well at this point. And then the government isn't doing much better. So, no, I'm not a Labour fan. The two support parties are, as Gareth says, are the Greens the only adults in the room?
They are doing adulting quite well. Yeah.
Those tree hugging hippies and their fully costed spreadsheet of how they're going to do shit, like public transport and infrastructure.
Yeah, and all their data and research and being able to cite academics and studies and stuff. All that kind of, what are they trying to talk about? And other people are just saying, but when feelings don't care about your facts, and then the Greens pull the facts out, and the rest of them are a bit like but
there is the crystals.
Yeah.
The charged crystals are how we're going to do the budget. No, it's stupid. And like, I don't care if you're a right winger or a left winger. Like, you can criticize your own team, because the aim is whoever's in government moves the country forward. And at the moment, I just see push me, pull you, and the two big guys pulling each way are lying to us. Or they're fudging the numbers, or they're just waving their hands and going, don't worry, when we're in government, it'll all become clear. And that's not good enough. It's not good enough for people to make a decision on voting.
Some comments that have been coming in. Brendan says the government plays this endless game of cat and mouse with unions in this country, where all they try and do is stall and delay. It's always 2 steps forward, every 3 years after 2 back. I have to be honest with you. One of the things that's annoying me most of all is, like you're saying, Chewy, about someone said in the chat actually about the nurses giving them a pay increase on day one. Like, if they come out now and they go, well, we're going to give nurses a 40% increase, we'll all be like, you're fucking assholes. You could have done that 18 months ago. Like, that's really cynical. It's like, run the country. You know what I thought today? Okay, here we go. This is why I'll never be in politics. Do you know, have you watched, I can't remember the name of it, but the Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary, Pumping Iron. It's called Pumping Iron. Like, from when he was Mr. Universe and Mr. Wimpy and Mr. all those things.
Can I just say, I am really invested to see where you're going with this. This sounds like a wild ride.
No, this is great. And this. I thought this literally today, and you'll forgive me because normally my thoughts go onto Twitter, but I've been busy packaging fucking hoodies today. Anyway, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the reason he was so good as a bodybuilder was what most bodybuilders do is they peak up to a competition and then they ease off. And then they cruise and they peak up to a competition and then they ease off. Arnold's went like this. He went up and he stayed there. He kept performing, he kept looking after himself, he kept working out, and kept himself in that peak condition. Why can't a government come in and go, it doesn't matter that it's an election year, let's get shit done? Like, why can't a government every year make it so, hey guys, we're going to act as if we're going to get re-elected next year. We're going to make decisions now as if the election was at the end of this year. Because it seems, and they're all fucking guilty of this, it seems that what they do is they come out with all their big ideas and all their, new initiatives and forward thinking 6 months out from an election, and then basically go to the rest of us for the rest of the time they're in there. So my political party, the Pat and Chewy party, is going to get in, and then we're going to stay in, and we're going to perform every year as if it was election year. We're not going to dip down and have a quiet couple of years. We're going to go up, and we're going to stay up there and make sure shit gets done, not because we need to get re-elected, but because it's the right thing to do. Labour not passing cannabis, you fucking morons. I wish it. Yeah. It's the same argument we used to have at radio stations. Why as a radio station do you peak? Because you give away all the big prizes when it comes to the the survey time. Just do it all year round. Just get up there like Arnold and just do it all year round. Government, whoever's in next, just get up there and just do it the whole time. Don't slip into, chill and then ramp back up to the next election. Just stay up there.
And stop thinking the electorate doesn't have a fucking memory. Like, I noticed, who's the national MP down here? Michael Woodhouse? Promising that they were going to reverse the cuts to the Dunedin hospital that Labour have been debating. And it's just like, dude, when you were in government, you shelved the whole hospital.
Yeah.
Too hard, couldn't be done. And
yeah.
Now you're telling us you'll be the only people that'll do it right? No, I don't believe you. I'm not happy with Labour cutting that hospital back, but at least they're doing something. I just want to be there to go, do more. Do more. Find the money. Do the work.
JK says, Luxon, well, the costs on that one is, I haven't got that right before me, but I've got that in details. That. But it's, we've got, I can tell you, Mark, he had papers in front of me. I was shuffling them around. Who else we got here? Simon, we read Simon's. I don't think Andrew Little would allow the Labour government, something our infrastructure to China. He did hawkish. I don't even understand that. I think my brain's...
He was hawkish towards China when he was defense minister. And
gotcha.
This is a sort of divergence that I really like, right? So you jump on the comment sections and Labour is, of course, full of communists, right? They're all commies. But it's National that tend to cozy up to a literal communist country.
Yeah.
But that gets a pass somehow. Like, I'm not saying that we necessarily need to cuddle up to America or something like that, but I'm just saying, like, we need to be aware of what's happening in our backyard. And China is not playing a straight bat with basically anybody.
Sporting analogy.
Was a sporting analogy.
Sporting analogy, Chewy.
And I put America in the same boat. Neither of these two superpowers have our best interests in heart. So I just don't trust National to not just, like, eyes closed, waltz into a partnership with China, who are going to build this road with all of these roading projects with all of these great big promises. Worry about the scary stuff later on. By the way, it's not going to be your workers that are going to be doing it. It's going to be ours. They're going to be flown in and flown out. Yep. It's not going to build jobs. It's not going to have anything come back to us. In fact, you might be carrying the whole can at the end of it. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Let's have a look now at the polling that came out tonight. Now, TV3 or News Hub, I think they're called now, isn't it? I've got some polling coming out tomorrow night. This is on Kiwi Blog, but it's from Roy Morgan, which we'll go and have a look at as well shortly. Labour down 4.5, National up 3.5. It's a pretty big swing. It means that at the last poll from these guys, Labour was in the lead by 0.5% because they had to put National on 30 and Labour on 30.5. So now Labour down to 26, Nationals up to 33.5, Greens pretty much the same, ACT pretty much the same, down a smidge, Māori Party down a smidge. Big movers, New Zealand First up to 5%, that's 2, up 2%. Top on 4%, Democracy New Zealand on 1%, no change. Now, I have to tell you, I don't buy these two. I just don't. I don't buy New Zealand First and I don't buy Top. That's where they're polling.
Well, they obviously surveyed Reddit for Top. Like if you go to New Zealand to Reddit, like everybody's voting for Top. I think they're the only people voting for Top, but they're all there. And New Zealand First, come on, have we not learned a lesson? Don't give Winston balance of power. Don't make
it hasn't, but this is part of the thing. Actually, New Zealand First getting there, actually on these numbers gives National a bit of a problem actually.
I'm all for
well, sort of, right? The thing about this is, okay, it looks pretty disasterly. Is that the right word? It's not the right word. However, because no one wants to work with Winston, what it actually does is gives National ACT 61 seats. So it gives National and ACT 61 seats. So that's actually only just a majority, but they don't need Winston. But the thing is, because Winston's there on these, Winston First, if he wasn't there, like if he got like 4.5%, not 5%, that would actually give the right bloc a much bigger majority, because you then have like 48% out of 89%. And it would leave the left bloc, including the Māori Party, on 41%. So it would put them on about 53 or 54% of the overall seats. So actually, if Winston gets in like that, if Winston was to get in on 5% and ACT or National would have dropped by 1% or 2%, that actually becomes problematic because that's taking up a full 5% of the vote. So if he gets 4%, then that 4% gets split up between the other parties, right? That's how it basically works, which means actually that could be better for National. So the numbers as they are right now, it's probably better for National, for New Zealand First, not to be there. So all the iterations that happen and all of the iterations that come out of this, New Zealand First getting there may not be useful to National or ACT. Now, I don't think he's going to get there. That's why I don't trust these numbers. I don't think these numbers are particularly good. However, we watch trends, and this is the beginning of a trend down for Labour. And I guess we wait to see what happens with Who's Their Nuts tomorrow night, News Hub, to see if that is a trend that's happening. This is going through that period of Kerry Allen, I believe. So probably Labour at their lowest, looking their worst. So we'll see how that comes out. Here's the official results. Labour on 26, Greens on 9, National on 33.5, ACT on 14, and that puts them at 35 versus 47.5. But of course, if you add in Māori Party as well, that puts them on 41 to 47, which is still a hiding when it comes to the political world. However, New Zealand First being in there, it doesn't put a spanner in the works, but it does kind of make it not quite as black and white as it would be if they weren't there. So there is a possibility, Chewy, because Winston could be like, I'm going to sit across the benches. There is a possibility that Winston getting in could actually harm might be the wrong word, make it more difficult for National to form a government. Like, let's say National and ACT got 60 seats and Winston went, fuck you guys. That could actually make it more difficult for them to form a government. Now, I don't think Winston's going to get there. We'll wait and see. And also remember, I think it's pretty clear. I think what I'm going to do over the next few while is a little bit of research on the night of the election results versus the final results, because I'm pretty sure anecdotally that each time that comes up, it's more common than not that the left picks up 1 or 2 seats after an election. And if you factor that in historically to this, look, trust me, I'm not saying, this is fine, don't worry about it. It's a bad result. It's a really bad result. But it still comes down to that idea, not to beat a dead horse, that if the left vote, the left can still win, because there's more left voters in New Zealand than right voters. But I also think that Hipkins is doing everything he can at the moment to try and get people to stop voting, get lefties. He's trying to smash the will for lefties to vote out of them, Chewy. That's how it feels.
I mean, anecdotally, my friends that are Labour supporters, like, they are uninspired by what's coming out. By trying to please the middle, he's pissing off the hardcore. And they're just looking at Greens, and I'm more worried about the people that just like they're going to lose. There's no point in voting. Like, I still think this is going to be really close.
Yeah,
and I still think the parties that are going to swing it are they're obviously the support parties, and like I hate the idea of ACT up around 15%. That's bananas. I want Greens at 15% or more.
Yeah, well, the next series of polling is going to be interesting because, with the Kerry Allen situation, it will be very interesting to see if the Greens start to pick some of that up. I watched quite an interesting, I didn't watch all of it. I probably will watch over a few days, but I watched a podcast called The Vanguard out of America. There are a couple of young lefties. And they had on Vosh today. Vosh is one of the biggest political kind of Twitch live streamers that there is out there. He sits on the left as well. And, Cornel West is throwing his hat in the ring for president. And basically the boys from the Vanguard are like, they want to be behind Cornel West, and they're basically saying if you live in a state that is a safe state for Biden, then you should vote for Cornel West, because that'll give him some momentum. It'll get him on the stage, that kind of stuff as well. But they're also saying if you're in a kind of purple state, a swing state, vote for Biden. But Vosh was on today, and I caught the last kind of 10, 15 minutes of it, and he's just like, the only thing that matters is Biden gets elected. That's the only thing that matters, because if he doesn't, then Trump does. And the guys from the Vanguard are talking about, but we need change.
It's so depressing.
Yeah, I know. But I was thinking about it through the day, and I thought, if you brought that into New Zealand, if you took the same path and the only thing that matters is a left-leaning government, would that change your vote? Would that inspire you to vote? Or like we see in America on the left, like when Bernie got knocked out because of bullshittery, and that caused a whole lot of leftists to not vote that time around and not vote for Clinton. Where is the line between, do you have to burn a place down to fix it? Do you have to burn it to the ground to rebuild it? Or do you want to make sure that the other team don't burn it down with their revolting policies? How does it work? It's a massive conversation, and it's not a tangent we're going to take an hour and 7 minutes into our hour-long show. But I just thinking about this election and thinking about, who's better to run the country and who do you want to run the country, person watching or listening? How does that make any difference to where you place your vote? And is it just about making sure that person X is not running the country? And if it is, does that impact your vote? I don't know. Just massive conversations.
Fucking fast forward to picking our next warlord, because it's what it feels like the world's heading towards at this point. Yeah. Can we move away from electing elderly people and just get to the person that has smashed the most skulls on a skull throne?
Free Soul, who's doing some intimate investigations into Julian Batchelor, intimate might be the wrong word, I apologise about that, Free Soul.
Oh, yeah.
Says that he canned his live stream tonight. If that's recorded anywhere, Free Soul, or if it's on any platform that we can still get a hold of, let me know. Send me an email or a message or something, because I'll grab it. It'd be good to have a look, because I suspect if he's got a live stream, and the reason he would have canned it would have been 1 million people got in there to go,
"You're a dick.
Fuck off Nazis, fuck off, fuck off Nazis." Is that how they do it? I don't know. I've never done that before.
You thought we were bad standing outside the venue. We're even worse in your live stream. We've also got the super.
Let me just say this one. Let me say this one first of all. Transform NZ. The new hospital Luxon claims to revert back to the original business case. They are merely planning to place beds into the shelled spaces that would have been included when the hospital was finished. Jay Transforms. Thanks for the super chat, Jay. We appreciate that. And we appreciate you supporting us with what you're doing.
Look,
anyway.
I think this is going to be this is going to be a really important election. It's infuriating to me that even though it is so pivotal, it's so uninspiring at the moment.
Mm.
You know, it's a weird combo, right?
Yeah.
It's like I don't give a shit about either of the main guys. I think they're deeply uninspiring, and as a left voter, I feel almost cast adrift by the main left party.
Are we going to endorse someone or a party at some stage? You know how all the Americans, aren't we going to endorse such and such? Or are we just going to keep talking about shit and let people make their minds up?
I tell you what, we'll endorse the first one that sends a bloody candidate on the show. Actually talk about
we've had
policy.
that.
How about that?
We had Debbie Nato-Apaka on several weeks ago. We've had several of the candidates on.
There we go.
So we're voting Māori Party.
Okay. I've also just been sent another shot of Luxon's transport map that he was. It's a different angle that sort of shows something a little bit more clearly than the video that we had. There it is there. So yeah, that wasn't super clear in the video, but everything's for sale. So yeah, there's the plan.
Very funny.
I'm just surprised that there's a couple of arrows pointing at the South Island. He's remembered me there. So that's also worrying.
What I thought you were going to show is like him having drawn an extra distance with Black Vivid on, a la Trump. And then there's this road as well, which we've always planned. It's unvivid, sir. No. It's always been there. That's what the experts have been telling us.
Our new roading policy is we're getting rid of State Highway 1 and we're going to call it State Highway 2.0, and it is 16 lanes wide from Invercargill to the place at the top with the lighthouse.
I thought for a second that you were going to say State Highway Tahi, and then I went, oh no. That'll never happen.
No, we wouldn't do
that. That will never happen. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us tonight. I will be back in tomorrow. Is it Tuesday today? It is Tuesday today, eh?
It is Tuesday, my dudes.
All right. We'll be back tomorrow night. We've got lots of other stuff to talk about. So I'm just kind of getting people are talking about local MPs and that kind of stuff. I think the Greens will be coming on. I think they'll be coming on. I think the Māori Party will be coming on. I don't know if Labour will come on. Being really honest with you about local MPs, I'm not really interested in local MPs to do on this show. We might do some local Dunedin stuff like I did with the mayors, because it's like, I no disrespect to local MPs, right? This is a national election. I want to talk to leaders. And if the leaders don't want to talk to us, then, you know, we've talked to lots of local MPs whilst doing the show when a local MP was appropriate. But I think if we're talking about a national government, meaning nationwide government, a national election, then we want to talk to leaders. Now, we may do something local in Dunedin like I did with the mayors, but I won't say never. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I don't know about getting the local MPs onto this show to talk about national issues that we want to talk to. I mean, we want to talk to fucking Luxon, sorry. We want to talk to Chippy about why the fuck do they not do capital gains tax and wealth tax? Like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, with the greatest respect to David Clark, who's kind of I don't know if we were mates, but, you know, we know each other well enough to say g'day and that kind of stuff. I don't think he's the person to ask that question of. Chippy's the person to ask that question of. You know? Yeah. So, all right. I think we're done, guys. I will catch you all, and so will Chewy, I'm assuming, tomorrow night, and we're done. Thanks for being with us tonight. Have yourself a safe night. Make sure you come back tomorrow night, bring a friend, and we'll just go that way. There we go.
Give me my street cred.
We live in Dunedin. I look like a gnome. Mine sticks up too far at the back.
I look like a picnic blanket.
All right. We've had RAF as well. So that means we've got to vote top. So what do we do, Chewy? You've just made this rule that we're going to endorse the ones we've had on. We've had RAF, we've had Debbie.
We get them all on.
We've had Martima several times. We've had James Shaw.
We could get Chloe on, and I could just dissolve into a pool of fanboy in my chair.
I don't
like that phrase. I'm sorry for what I just said.
Yeah. Now she'll never come on. Yeah. All right, guys. All the best. We'll catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hairy News. Be safe, be swell, and we'll catch you tomorrow from 9. Hooroo team.
Smash that like button. Do it. Do it on your